The first gunshot shattered the hospital windows at 2:17 a.m., and the night shift froze in silence. Machines beeped, footsteps echoed, and somewhere down the corridor, a wounded soldier began to pray. No one inside the military hospital in San Antonio, Texas, knew that the quiet rookie nurse gripping a tray of syringes near the trauma ward had once survived darker nights than this. They saw her as the new girl, the soft-spoken one with tired eyes and gentle hands. They didn't know she had spent years in places where gunfire was as common as rain. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet heroes among us, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs inspiration, and subscribe to the channel. Comment below where you're watching from, and let's honor the unsung heroes together. Her name was Hannah Carter. She had joined the hospital just 3 months earlier, fresh-faced in her pale blue scrubs, hair pulled into a tight bun. To the other nurses, she was polite but distant. To Dr. Marcus Whitmore, she was inexperienced but determined. To the patients, she was warmth in human form. She worked the night shift by choice, saying she preferred the calm. The truth was, she slept better when the world was quiet. Chaos felt familiar. Hannah had come to the hospital after leaving the Navy. Officially, she had served as a medical specialist attached to special operations. Unofficially, she had been something far more dangerous. Years of classified missions had hardened her instincts, sharpened her reflexes, and left her with scars that no uniform could hide. But when her younger brother Caleb was injured overseas, she realized she wanted to heal more than she wanted to fight. She left the teams, buried her past in silence, and chose nursing as her new battlefield. That night, the hospital was holding several high-profile patients, injured service members flown in from a classified operation. Security had been tightened, but no one expected an attack inside American borders. The gunmen came dressed in dark clothing, faces covered, rifles raised. 10 of them stormed through the emergency entrance with brutal precision. 2 guards went down instantly. Panic rippled through the halls. Hannah felt the shift before most did. The distant thud of boots. The rhythm of movement. The smell of fear. Her body responded before her mind caught up. She set down the tray, her pulse steady instead of racing. Around her, nurses screamed and ducked behind counters. A young medic named Tyler crouched beside her, whispering that they were going to die. Hannah placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice calm, almost unnaturally so. She told him to get the patients into locked rooms and keep them quiet. The first gunman rounded the corner of the trauma wing. He wasn't expecting resistance from hospital staff. He certainly wasn't expecting Hannah. She moved with terrifying efficiency. Years of muscle memory guided her. She disarmed him using the very force stand beside her, twisting his weapon away in a fluid motion. The hallway erupted in chaos, but Hannah's mind narrowed into focus. She dragged the unconscious man into a supply closet and secured him with surgical tape and cords. Her heart pounded now, not from fear but from a realization she had tried to avoid since leaving the Navy. The fight had found her again. Down the corridor, gunfire erupted near the ICU where Sergeant Michael Reeves lay unconscious after surgery. Hannah knew the attackers were heading for specific patients. This wasn't random. It was targeted. She slipped into a security office, accessing a locked cabinet most staff didn't know existed. Inside were emergency firearms meant only for dire situations. She hesitated for half a second. She had sworn she was done with weapons. But innocent lives were depending on her. When she stepped back into the hallway, she was no longer just a nurse. She was the operator she used to be. The gunmen split into groups, searching room by room. Hannah used the hospital's layout to her advantage, guiding patients and staff into safer wings. She shut off lights in certain corridors, creating confusion. She moved through shadows like she had overseas, silent and precise. One by one, she neutralized threats, using both strategy and surprise. In the pediatric recovery wing, she found 2 gunmen approaching a locked room filled with wounded soldiers. Her voice trembled slightly as she called out to draw their attention, playing the part of a frightened nurse. When they turned, she acted with lightning speed. Within seconds, both were down. Between confrontations, she checked on patients, whispering reassurance, pressing hands, wiping tears. In one room, she found Caleb, her brother, who had been transferred quietly for additional treatment. His eyes were wide with fear when he recognized the sounds outside. For a moment, the fearless operator disappeared, replaced by a sister who had once sat by his hospital bed praying he would survive. She kissed his forehead and promised he would see the sunrise. The final 3 gunmen barricaded themselves near the main lobby, holding Dr. Whitmore and several nurses hostage. Hannah's uniform was stained, her hands trembling slightly now that adrenaline was fading. She felt the weight of every life in the building pressing against her chest. Memories of past missions flickered, friends lost, choices made in seconds. She didn't want to be this person again. But she also couldn't let innocent people die. Using the hospital's fire alarm system, she triggered a localized sprinkler activation in the lobby. As water poured down and lights flickered, confusion erupted among the gunmen. Hannah slipped in through a side corridor, moving low and fast. In the chaos, she incapacitated 2 attackers and subdued the last before he could harm the hostages. When the sirens of local law enforcement echoed outside, the hospital was soaked, shaken, but standing. Police and military officials flooded the building. Officers stared at the scene, 10 armed men neutralized, no patient fatalities. They looked at the security footage in disbelief. The rookie nurse had moved like a trained operative. Word spread quickly among staff. Tyler stared at Hannah as if seeing her for the first time. Dr. Whitmore, still trembling, asked who she really was. Hannah didn't answer at first. She simply walked to Caleb's room and sat beside him, exhaustion finally crashing over her. Tears she had held back for years began to fall. She had left the Navy to save lives quietly, anonymously. She had hoped her past would remain buried. But sometimes, the skills we try to outrun are the very ones that define us. In the days that followed, news outlets called her a hero. Military officials confirmed she had served with distinction as part of a special operations unit. The hospital staff looked at her differently now, not with suspicion, but with awe and gratitude. Yet Hannah struggled with the attention. She didn't feel like a hero. She felt like someone who simply refused to let darkness win. One evening, as she prepared to return to her shift, Dr. Whitmore approached her with new respect in his eyes. He told her the hospital wanted her not just as a nurse, but as head of emergency preparedness. They needed someone who understood both healing and defense. Someone who could train others to be ready. Hannah stood in the quiet hallway where the first shot had shattered the night. The windows had been repaired, the floors cleaned, but the memory remained. She realized she didn't have to choose between who she had been and who she wanted to become. She could be both strength and compassion. Warrior and healer. If this story touched your heart, if you believe that courage often hides behind the quietest faces, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video. Your support helps these stories reach more people who need hope. And before we end, I have a special request. Comment the word courage below if you believe ordinary people can do extraordinary things when it matters most. On her next night shift, Hannah walked through the hospital doors not as a secret soldier hiding in scrubs, but as a woman who had embraced every part of her journey. The fluorescent lights hummed softly. Machines beeped steadily. Somewhere, a patient laughed with a nurse. Life continued. They would always remember the night 10 gunmen stormed the hospital. But those who were there would remember something even greater, the moment they realized the quiet rookie nurse had been their shield all along. And sometimes, the greatest heroes are the ones who never planned to be seen.